So it's preparing. Hopefully it's not, hopefully it was Facebook and it wasn't Zoom that's having the issue.
At least Zoom on my part seems to be working okay. So
Yeah.
Perfect. We are live on YouTube. Perfect. So there was a Facebook issue. All right. So good morning, Corona Days Professional Development Group, and anyone joining us for this webinar. This morning we are here with Jeff Bursting and Dory Kaplan. They're going to talk to us about an introduction and overview to Agile slash agility. They're going to discuss agility for beginners, the career outlook for agile coaches, pivoting into agility from another field. A little about Dory Kaplan, an education marketing consultant, and Jeff Burstein, an agility coach. Realize that their combined skill sets and experience would enable them to offer solutions to the education sector in a post COVID-19 world. IQ for Agile was created as a result. The company is working with other education and agility experts to provide and implement solutions ranging from remote learning to developing alliances with other college institutions. They share in the vision of transforming education to become more student-centered. To this mission, a scaling framework called l/eaf.org, along with numerous contributors from education, technology, and agility, are in collaboration to refine a four-pillar approach, which includes student agility, lean agile leadership, teaching agility, and institutional agility. So if you're like me, this is all a foreign language, right? So I even tongue tied myself saying these things, and I know how to read. So I am very happy and honored to be hosting both Dory and Jeff to tell us a little more about this and to let us know how lay people like us can use learn agile and use it to maximize our skill set. All right, so I am going to shut my camera off and mute myself. Guys, if I missed anything about your in your bio or anything you want to say about the company, please do so. And I'm gone. We're gonna have a dedicated Q&A. All right, bye-bye.
Thanks, Danette. Thank you for having us. We appreciate being here, and I was super excited. I usually when I have a talk or something like this, I can't sleep too well, so that's a good thing because I I was very excited for this morning, and Jeff and I both. And I would like to say preface this by saying that I am not the agile expert. Jeff is. I'm the education expert side, so that's why I'll be conducting and asking the questions, and at the end we'll have the floor open for anyone that has any questions, and we may even have a surprise guest. So we'll see how that goes. But without further ado, I'll just jump into it if that's okay. You ready, Jeff?
I certainly am.
Okay. Well, when I guess the very first question is, what is agility? Because I know a lot of people that are not familiar with it, they may have seen it. They might think when if you look it up, agile means like quick or fast. It gives that connotation. So from your perspective, the expert, tell us what agility is.
Sure. When we talk about agility in terms of leading organizations or delivery of value, what we're really talking about is an approach that was born out of the world of software development. And it really was about, creating and coming up with better ways to create software. Agility really defined the developer's ability to kind of pivot and shift from what they were working on to focus on the thing that at the time was going to deliver the highest value back to the customer. When we talk about agility today, right? We're really talking about, 20 years worth of experience that we've had in the business world of doing agile transformations, where you have large organizations that have been moving from a very traditional way of doing business to what we're calling a new agile way of doing business. And so when we talk about agile in that context, what we're really talking about is, something that ends up being around 60% mindset, 30% practices, which may include things like delivery methodologies and frameworks for taking these concepts up through the entire organization. We call those scaling frameworks, and maybe 10% tools that enable teams to shift their focus from one of managing risk and, focusing on the delivery of projects to allowing organizations to focus on the delivery of a product or a service, and focus on developing the things that will make it most valuable to their customer. And so when we talk about agility, that's what we're talking about. It's this new way of working that was born out of the digital revolution, right? Grew up in the roots of software development, but has really shifted now to, encompassing really the way that we work in general. So, we've done agile transformations that have involved marketing departments or HR groups or, just people who just do not particularly work or develop anything of a technological basis. They're more of a service oriented, and noticing that by allowing, us to shift our decision making closest to where the problem is, and allowing us to build teams that are, consist of all the skills that we need to deliver value to our customer, as opposed to a more siloed approach that we're used to, we've noticed that we've been able to reduce waste. So when we talk about agility in general, that's what we're talking about. It's all of those things.
Great. Okay. I think that gives us a very good overview. I guess the next question would be, what industries hire candidates with agility background, and from which industries have agility coaches come from traditionally?
Sure. So when we talk about agility, I mean, beyond coaching, there are several different roles in agility, right? Depending on the delivery methodology that we're working with, some of the popular ones are Scrum and Kanban, which is born out of lean manufacturing. And there are certain roles and responsibilities that we look as we start our focusing and rising it up from the individual, but bringing it up to the team level. As far as the industries, I myself have done agile transformation in healthcare. I've done it in insurance, in finance. I've done it, I've done retail. Agility really grew up in the .com. So when you look at companies like Amazon, and you look at companies like Netflix and Spotify, these are companies that agility is baked into their DNA. And so even though they span multiple different industries, but because they're agile, they're able to do things like, deliver 1,000 new updates to their platforms in a day. Larger, bigger companies that operate in a more traditional sense, where they have long-term projects that, involve, various groups from the organization and have to pass through all these various toll gates, it could take them 6 months to a year to get out functionality, right? Whereas when you have these nimble companies, they're able to, release frequently and on demand. And, you look back in the last 5 years and 7 years maybe, and now we notice that agility is working really well in the government sector. I did a transformation with the Department of Energy, a group that was, they were attached to the national labs, and they were building some GIS services for the Department of Energy to track assets on a map. Right. And so we did an agile transformation there. So I get to actually see an industry that can't benefit from an agile transformation. And as Danette pointed out, you and I reconnected at the beginning of the pandemic because we saw a need to bring agility to education. Which is why we have companies like Leaf and IQ for Agile that even exist today.
That's actually a good lead into my next question. That's kind of why we created the company, the IQ for Agile, because myself being, the expert subject matter expert in the education sector, said, you know what, it's about time that there's some kind of movement, if you could say, for the education sector, because they need a lot of help. I mean, and it's actually been emphasized because of the coronavirus. And so, you know, it's sometimes, you know, in the chaos, something good, you know, comes from it. So, you know, what from we call it from the boardroom to the classroom, but why should the education sector look at adopting agility?
You know, I've been reading a lot about the Industrial Revolution within the context of education lately, because there does seem to be a strong movement and belief in the educational sector that, you know, at various times during the Industrial Revolution, education had to pivot. They had to change the way that they delivered education. So if we look back historically, you had during the Transportation Revolution, right? When trains and steam engines and all that became available, all of a sudden universities could attract students from far away, right? And so they pivoted as far as the types of things that they would offer, you know, to their students. Why? Because, well, you could come here, get your education, go back home and apply that knowledge. Right, so it didn't just have to do with what we were learning in our area and the things that were local context. You know, fast forward to the early 1900s, and you have the where the Industrial Revolution takes a pivot on manufacturing. You know, we're introduced to the Ford assembly line. We're introduced to electricity. Right, all these things, they converge, and once again, education pivots. Right, because it's no longer about creating experts to, you know, go in back to areas and bring this knowledge and teach all the people. It's not people who can go into factories and do the job. Learning how to manage people becomes a big conversation. How do we get the most out of our employees? And you all of a sudden have this whole offshoot of business in education, and, you know, as opposed to just, you know, some of the regular, and the way it starts to, you know, evolve because of the needs of the industrial sector. Well, now fast forward to the 2000s, and, you know, 30 years ago, we started the digital revolution. 20 years ago, the movement of changing the way organizations work began. And here we are, fast forward 20 years, and Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies, more and more of them are, if they haven't already, they are taking on the effort of changing the way they work. Education would be well served to prepare students to work in an agile approach. And the easiest way to do that is to bring it into the classrooms. And from the institutional perspective, right, when you look at all the troubles that COVID has uncovered in the educational sector and all the advantages that agility has brought to any sector it's been brought into, right? It seems ridiculous, especially when you can go into most higher education schools of business and find some professor teaching about the values of agility, that the schools themselves don't leverage it as a way of doing strategic planning, you know, of reducing costs, of operating more effectively, of delivering the highest quality educational opportunities to their students.
That's good. Well, we're going to change gears just a little bit in the questioning, because I think people are, you know, if now that they're familiar with it, there are certifications, just like, people in the IT field. I used to be a headhunter, used to have Microsoft, you know, like you could get your A. I actually have my A plus. I could be a beginning break fix tech, but anyway, getting back, so certifications, why would those matter for someone looking into getting into the agility field?
Sure. So, agility, in my coaching, I tell people, you know, agility is a lot like learning how to ride a bicycle, right? So it takes practice, but you have to start off with some foundation of understanding, right? And, you know, so when you look at the available, coursework that's out there in the marketplace, you know, you start to hear about organizations like Scrum, the Agile Alliance, the Scrum Alliance, right? You know, SAFe, TAD, there's all these different organizations that are offering all these different certifications. So how do you actually understand, well, what's worth what, right? And so I tend to point people to a report that's been coming out now for 14 years. It's called The State of Agile. I forget who releases it. I think it comes out by version 1 or Rally. It's one of the tool manufacturers, but they go out and they canvas. They do a lot of research to go ahead and find out what companies are doing, what people are doing, as far as agility in the marketplace. And the year after year, at least for the last 3-4 years, it's been showing that of all the different certifications, if for example we're looking at a couple of the Scrum roles, a Scrum Master, which is someone who is responsible to ensure that the team has all the space they need to deliver the things that they commit to. Right. So they remove impediments. They make sure that, the team knows what's going on and has everything they need to deliver. Right. You can go to Scrum Alliance and you can get a certification. You can go to Scrum Inc. and you can get a Scrum Master certification. You can go to SAFe and you can get a certification. And so the question is what's the difference? And the difference manifests itself when you're out there applying for a job. So if you're considering, agility as maybe something that you want to add into your arsenal to make you more attractive in as you're out there looking for jobs, adding the right certification can really make a difference. What I've noticed over the last couple of years, and I've kind of been tracking this data, it's not an official survey or anything, just based on the recruiters that I speak to, anywhere from, 2 to 5 a week, that, SAFe on average will return you for the same type of role between $10 to $15 an hour more when you're looking for a role. So you'll have organizations, the big companies, in the banking industry, you have Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and insurance. You have MetLife, Travelers, in manufacturing, you have Emerson. In retail, you have Lowe's, you have Home Depot. All of these are big companies. They're all doing SAFe transformation. When they're looking to bring on Scrum Masters, if you have a SAFe certification, they'll simply offer you a little bit more money. And keep in mind that, $15 an hour on a 40-hour work week is an extra $600 a week. For some people, that's their paycheck right now. And that's in addition to what you get. And it could literally be the difference between $50 to $65 an hour, $60 to $75 an hour. Here in where I live in the Charlotte area, it's the difference between $75 and $95 an hour, the certifications. So, if you're going to go ahead and invest into a certification, take a look at, what that return on that investment might look like.
I think that's a very smart thing, because we know now that there's just, if you're a job seeker, I think the biggest question is, okay, do I go back to get a full, do I change gears and get another degree? Do I take some of these MOOC classes that were, like General Assembly offers ones where, I pay some money and I get some kind of a cert in return. And so upon that, what prerequisites are there to begin to enter into the field of Agile as a professional career track? Because I think that's the biggest question weighing on job seekers that are trying to figure out what's their next step in looking for a job. And, there's so many options that it's good to get an enlightened view of, what the expectation is.
Sure. So I think the primary requisite for anybody taking on, if they're thinking of looking into a career that's going to focus on working in an agile approach, being open to change, right? Being willing to be uncomfortable is a prerequisite, right? Because if you are not willing to change and challenge your preconceived notions on how things work in the workplace, and, who's responsible for what, and who tells people what to do, who gets told what people are going to do, and how organizations work, that will make it very challenging. Outside of that, I don't really think you need, from a skills, I don't think there's really anything that is required. If you are passionate about helping people, right, and ensuring that they can do the best that they can do, then I would encourage people to focus along the delivery line. Scrum Masters to Scrum Masters, people who serve those sets of responsibilities of taking care of the problems for the people who are making the commitments and delivering the work. right, of clearing that space so that they can focus. If you're more the type of personality who loves to, interact with people and find out what they want and then, explain that to a group of people or carry the torch of a vision, right? Where you take a little ownership about what it is the end user is going to end up getting in their hands to touch and feel and play with, then I would encourage you to head down the product side of things, right? So that if you have, let's say you work in education, you may have a lot of experience in things in education, and so it would make sense to, if you went to look in an ed tech company, you could serve it in the product role because you understand what teachers or educators need, and you can express that in simple, everyday, common language to the teams that will be responsible to solve those problems, right? And so, it makes it easy to make the transition, but like riding a bicycle, it takes practice, right? There's falling off, there's getting it wrong, and that's okay in agility, right? We value failure as long as we learn from it, right? And we gain the benefit of saying, okay, well, now we know why this doesn't work, right? So as long as we keep those things in mind, I don't think there's anything from a prerequisite standpoint that you really need.
That's good. I think you answered the question I was going to ask, is that I guess people, like, the only skill set required to be like having those soft skills, because if you're the kind of person that likes to work alone, in a vacuum, then this probably wouldn't be a good career aspiration for you. But if you're someone, that likes to work with people, right?
If you like to boss people around, agility is probably not the career direction to go in, right? If you're a person who's like, look, the world would be a better place if everybody did what I said, maybe not agility, right?
That's interesting. Yeah. So I guess, can someone getting into the agility coaching field do this as a long-term career? I know you've been in it since 2011. And what is the Agile mindset? How do you see Agile evolving both currently and into the future?
Sure. So Agile coaching, right? I mean, it is different than just taking on the role of working in an Agile environment, right? So because there's a sense of the nomad that we have to have, right? I know every time I join an organization to help them do some sort of transformation, I know I've succeeded when they don't need me anymore. Right? And they let me go and they say, thank you very much, Jeff. You helped us accomplish what we were trying to do. And now you can go away. And I'm like, thank you. It was fun while it lasted, right? Now, that's not always true of the product owner or scrum master, right? Those are long, persistent roles with the team. They exist within the organization. Now again, Agile mindset, it is 60% of agility, as I said earlier, right? It's that willingness to try new things, to get that I don't have all the answers, right? I can join any engagement, any company, and they can ask me on day one, so what are we going to do? To get to where we have defined our idealized state of agility to be. And my answer is generally going to be the same. Well, we're going to experiment, and we're going to fail, and we're going to learn things. But every time we do, we're going to move closer towards that ideal state until you get to the point that you are comfortable enough that you say, you know what, Jeff, we have it from here. We'll get us the rest of the way. And I go, thanks. Here's some additional things to know. Good luck on your journey. Right? And I go off to the next, or you go off to the next client and help them make that transition too, because it's about wanting to deliver that value, right? It's the crux of the mindset. It's that passion to, we used to say when we work in an Agile way, we're not satisfying our customer. We're looking to delight them, right? So that delighted look that people get from, having gone through the work and how much better their work-life balance is now.
That's good. I mean, well, I think you kind of answered like the biggest takeaway of adopting an agile mindset is that you can't be afraid to try. You can't be afraid to fail. And I think that's probably when I was introduced to agility from you, that's kind of like what I learned is that, it's a great different way of thinking, because if you always are afraid to start something new or try something new, then you're not going to be able to develop an agile mindset, right? It's about
Yeah, I mean, I would say that is right. That would be the opposite of an agile mindset, right? The two concepts that we talk about a lot in agility are fixed mindset, right, and growth mindset, right? So a fixed mindset is, look, I know all the things I'm ever going to know today. There's no point in trying anything new. I'm never going to get a new skill. I'm never going to improve, and therefore I can only do what I can do. That's one aspect of a fixed mindset. A growth mindset is, well, I just haven't failed enough to learn what I don't know. And once I try enough times, I'll know it. And then I can apply it and get better. And I'm willing to keep experimenting and trying until I learn what there is to learn.
That's
Right.
good.
So, yeah, it's that thing that's critical, right? That thing that you have to be willing to do in the face of you may not get it right the first time, the second time, the eighth
Right.
time.
Well, I think it's a good, we talk about this because I know that in the education sector, because that's kind of the sector we're looking at with our company. There's probably a lot of educators that are afraid, because they've always had, this, I'll call it like the comfort cocoon, being in education where what the expectations are, that to climb the ladder, you have to possibly get your PhD. So it's very structured and very this, you have to do it this way type of thing. So I'm glad we were able to come on today so that we could talk about that. And this kind of leads into our Q&A segment. I don't know if we have any educators that are in the audience today with us, but I'll open the floor for any questions. And actually, our instructor, in addition to the leave concept, we are also offering people the ability to get their Scrum Master certification. We're partnered with Genesis Consulting to do that for some November classes. And we have the surprise guest that I had mentioned earlier has joined us. His name is Eric O'Brien. And we're going to also have another speaking engagement on Danette's show in about a week or two with him, ask the instructor kind of thing. But if you're with us, Eric, if you want to pop on and just say hello and take yourself off mute.
Hello?
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 Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
yes, I can hear you,
Yeah.
Danette.
Sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry.
I'm sorry. I'm having all kind of issues here. 1 second. I'm gonna
Okay.
look into the chat for questions.
Okay.
Okay, so let me
All
look
right.
into. I don't have any here on. Is Eric speaking? Is Eric able to speak?
I'm not sure if he had, if he's unable to speak, that's okay.
Let me see if I bring him on. If I can bring him on.
Okay, we'll see if we can bring him up. And if not, he is going to have his own segment in like a week or two where we're going to do a deep dive into what the expectation is of a class. Because I know myself, I haven't taken a class or a course in a really long time.
Okay, let
So
me
for
just.
me, it's a little intimidating, but definitely when we have the experts here that have done that, and are with us, you want to take advantage. So
Sure.
even if you can't, if someone is here or they're seeing this as a recording and
I
you're
don't
planning
know
to,
what I'm doing, and I can't. I'm not able to give it to him. I'm usually able to just click his name and bring him
Yeah, I'm
on.
not sure that through the YouTube whether or not participants or attendees can talk
Oh,
or not.
okay. Is it that?
Yeah, that may be it. But Eric did. So there was a question that Joanne had asked about if you already have the certified Scrum Master certification, the CSM. What's the next certification? That would be the Advanced Scrum Master or the Advanced Certified, which Eric put in the chat. I know a lot of people who, what they look to do instead of moving up one certification tree is they look to move out vertically to, make themselves, more attractive to potential employers. So they'll get the CSM, they'll get the SSM, the Safe SSM. They may look at some of the other Scrum Masters, and then then they start moving up the tree.
And I'm seeing Eric added in that the CPO would also be good for breadth, especially if you want to work towards the CSP, which is the Certified Scrum Professional.
Yeah.
So I have a question because, as you know, I'm a newbie to Agile. Um, how long do these certifications are they good for? You know, like I know I've seen some certs are good for like 2 years. Is that what seems to be the
Yeah,
norm?
in general, these are about a year. You
Okay.
know, now, I think every certifying organization has their own, set of rules. So I do encourage, to check, or to ask the instructor, right? I know Eric probably could tell us, about the SAFE certifications, as he does a lot of training in SAFE. That is an annual renewal. And once you get the certification, you renew it directly through the Scaled Agile website. They provide you, in addition to a community portal where you can interact with other certified professionals. They have a whole back end system giving you access, and I'm sure a lot of the certification organizations do similar things. They'll have communities of practice. They'll have different opportunities to stay engaged with the community.
I have another question. So I see, that there's just certifications. How often does like an organization, like just like, there's some that offer, they educational, they'll pay for your college. Are there a lot now that will pay for your Scrum certifications?
There are a lot of organizations that will do reimbursement for things like this, especially if they're, if they are going through transformations and they're not offering those opportunities internally. So I know, for example, some of my clients, and I'm sure this is true of Eric as well. They will go to the organization that provides the certification. So if we're talking SAFE, we'll be talking about going to Scaled Agile Inc., and they will buy in bulk certifications and then offer them, internally to anybody who is an employee that wants to, potentially go ahead and take it. And they may even encourage it that if you are going to be stepping into a role, that you actually take the certification. And, they may bring in someone like Eric to go ahead and teach the course. They may bring in someone like Eric to, teach the course and then kind of stay on with the group as they move through some of their transformations, so that, as an organization, within the group that, is engaged, they're making sure that all the right roles, the people who are taking the roles are getting the right classes and the right certification, and then they have access to people who can train these roles and responsibilities to support them as they go into and actually start to, practice what they learned in the classrooms.
Well, it's interesting. I try and look at the articles, that have to do with agility and organizations. And I've seen now that there's even a position called the chief agility chief
Officer. Yeah, a lot of organizations, if they have chief agility or chief digital officers, or chief change officers, really depending on what they want to call them. That is kind of a new thing. We have seen for the last probably 5 to 7 years, organizations within companies who may report up through operations or may report up through IT, information technology. And these groups are responsible for the agile transformations. They'll stand up what have been called agile centers of excellence or lean agile centers of excellence. So ACEs or LACEs or business agility center of excellences, BASES. Depending on what the organization's goals are in terms of agility and their agile transformation.
That's good. I don't see any more questions in the chat, but I do have one thing I'm going to suggest, because what I've been doing on LinkedIn, I was curious, I'm a former headhunter recruiter. So I was curious just to how many, type of jobs there were in agility. And so I set up when on LinkedIn, you have the ability to set up, feeds coming into you. every
Mm-hmm.
day I see hundreds, if not thousands, of new jobs coming into play all over, not just the country, the world. So to me, it tells me that this is one area that is growing and growing. And when I actually look at I used to be a headhunter, so I study them, so I'll look into and I'll say, you know what, they're not asking like, have you been in the banking industry or have you been in the this particular industry. They're just looking that you have done transformation. So that's to me very encouraging. So it doesn't mean that, so if I wanted to become an agile coach, just the fact that I'm getting the certifications and dipping my toes into it, it's not saying you have to be from this industry. Although I think some of them are asking that you come from the software, background for, but that's specifically for companies I think that are probably in the IT field too. So it's, to me, that's very encouraging because in a lot of industries, they want you to have some kind of experience, and with agility, it seems that they're pretty open to that. So
Right. Well, so organizations that are doing transformations realize that, well, learning what we do is easy. Learning agility is hard. Right. So they already benefit from the fact that we come from different backgrounds and different experiences is only going to result in a better product. So it doesn't matter that you don't come from the same background as I do. Right. Agility and agile teams value different perspectives. Right. We do, as you know, right, we do work in an area called Agile for Social Good. Right. Where we talk about how, if organizations would really shift to operating in a mindset that would do away with all the discrimination based upon really anything, right? I mean, because it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are, where you were born, what country you come from, whether you're male, female, you identify as non-binary or any of those things, white, black, male, female. It's all about how do you work with your team? Do you contribute value? Do you help us achieve our goals? Okay, great. We're all in this together. Let's move as a team, right? And it really does break those barriers down because it's no longer about who's in charge. The team's in charge, right? And it's a collaborative effort. It's designed, to disregard all of it because all of it is just noise that distracts us from the good that we're trying to do for our customers, right? And so, when you talk about, why is there an advantage of working in agility? Why would people want to consider it? It really comes down to, hey, look, if we all just kind of adopted this mindset, we'd notice that we would start focusing on the solutions and not the problems. And we start willing to try things as opposed to go, no, we have to come up with the perfect solution before we do anything, right? No, let's try something. Let's try an experiment. Let's see what happens. Let's learn something new. Right? You look at how science fights the pandemic, right? Well, we have to go out. We have to try different things, right? If they have the answer all along, what have we been waiting for 7 months? No, we have to learn. There's the stuff that we don't know, right? The scientific approach, the agile approach, they move together in unison because they both leverage the cycles of make a plan, right? Do the plan, check the results, come up with your next plan based on the results. Right? What did you learn? What are you going to try next? Until we end up with a solution. Or we end up with the situation being improved enough that we can now focus on the next thing and improving that.
Well, you got
I
another
have a question. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
No,
So
go
my
ahead,
question
Jeanette.
is, what is the average investment in? So I don't know anything about agile. What can I
Sure.
think? Is it like a graduate degree?
No. So from a time commitment, you're talking about a day to 4 days.
Okay.
Depending on what kind of classes you're looking at and what kind of certifications you're looking at, and again, depending on where you want to start in your certification journey, it could be as little as $100. It can be, as much as or $5,000,
Right. Okay.
right? You know, but we're not talking, you know, a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, an 8-year degree or anything like that. We're actually talking a small investment to get started. And the best part is the return on the investment,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Of course.
So if you're someone who's looking to, you know, who has experience working, right? You have experience in whatever field you've been working in. And now you make the pivot to say, I'm going to look for a job doing that work, but finding a company that does it in an agile fashion. And I'm going to assume a new set of responsibilities, right? And to do that, I'm going to get this certification, and this certification is $1,000, right? You could very easily expect, depending on your experience, right, that you could be getting anywhere from, you know, 70, 80, 90, $120 an hour.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Right. And
Not
so
bad.
2 days worth of 3 days worth of work, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
in the new role is what it takes to return that, you know, but that's just the monetary return on investment.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the improvement in your life,
The quality
right?
of life.
Like
Yeah.
you get up and you love going to work now as opposed to dreading it, right? Like you're there as a leader to empower people as opposed to yell at them and beat them down until they're, you know, until they give you what you want, right? It's the old joke, you know, beatings will continue until morale improves. Well, morale strangely never
Never
improves.
improves.
Wonder why, you know? And it's because the old way of management, I mean, it just doesn't work when you're dealing with people whose job require problem solving skills. I mean, they've done enough research on it over the last 20, 30 years, and they've proven it here in America. They've proven it all over the world in different from different perspectives that if you want to motivate people, you only need to give them three things, right? You need to give them a purpose. Why are you coming to work every day? What is it that your effort is going to deliver to our customer, our community, our students, our world, right? How about I give you a little bit of autonomy? I will trust you to figure out how to do your job, right? Because after all, you're the professional. You're skilled in that. You know how to do that job, right? And lastly, I'm going to give you the time that it takes for you to gain mastery over the skills that you think are going to help you to do the job and make sure that you have access to gain that mastery. And if you have those three things, I don't have to throw more money at you. I don't have to threaten you with your job, right? I just turn you loose.
Yeah.
Get out of your way.
I'm gonna jump in because I wanted to make sure we addressed there was a Lisa Ann had asked the question. Jeff had answered it, but she was asking like which cert first, and Jeff, you answered those questions by the Scrum Master and the product owner, product manager, because like not everyone's familiar with what POPM is, but we're going to be able to give that opportunity to Danette to publish those because we do have some classes coming up in as little as like 2 weeks from now. So I'm going to give that to Danette to be able to do that. And the other thing I just wanted to quickly mention was that I had actually the other day I was looking at there's some staffing companies that place agile folks. So I'm just going to give you like I went to one recruiter's profile and he's in Charlotte and he says for agile coaches they're making $70 to $110 an hour. Okay, that's the top of the tier. That's what Jeff is, an agile coach. Then below that is the Scrum Master, $60 to $75 an hour. Boy, that sure beats minimum wage of what $10 it is now, and then Scrum Masters 60 to 75 an hour. Project managers 50 to 65. Project managers 68 to 75 an hour. Business analysts $40 to $55 an hour. So if you someone looking to transition, that's not a bad part-time job to have.
No, it's not at all, right?
So I think as a recruiter, I always said, before you go into an area, do your research and see what like we were talking about, what's the investment cost, what's the time cost. And the great thing about the agile community is that once you get into it, there are so many people willing to help you. um, I actually was on LinkedIn the other day and I saw someone in Atlanta. And he was both a scrum master and he just had received his advanced scrum master. And I said, hey, I saw this job for you. I don't know him from Adam. I just direct messaged him. I said, you know that they're looking for that. And you can work remotely. There's hundreds of remote jobs you can do in Agile. So gosh, I don't have to relocate. I can make 60
Yeah.
plus an hour. I mean, what's the bad part of it? You have to learn something new.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything else. Jeff, do you have
No,
any?
I was able to figure out how to get Eric not video on but sound
Oh,
on.
oh,
Hey,
So
Aaron.
Eric, if you want to say anything, I was trying to figure it out the whole time. Like I know I did it before. I can't get you on video, but I could get you on sound. Eric, you have anything you want to say?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, so just add to what's the chat that's been going on here is just to say that um, remember that the certifications are a foundation for learning. If you think about when you go to college, you're setting a foundation up to learn and um, to become this lifelong learner. So you can expand that knowledge by exploring, by trying new things. Really, that's when we get to agile mindset. We're thinking about that. We're thinking about how do we change our fixed mindset? How do we incorporate learning? How do we get feedback, retrospective into what we're doing? The reason why these jobs are such highly valued is because we're getting away from rigidity. We're getting rid of that. We have these plans that have been set 5 years ago, and then something happens like COVID-19, and now everything doesn't work. And we're getting to this world where we have the flexibility to be adaptable. And this role, these positions, are not just about executing a process or framework. It's about a way of thinking, and it's a way of believing, and it's a way of living, and it impacts your life and the way you um, see your day to day. And so I encourage you, look for it more than just a certification. There's a huge community with meetups now, especially virtually, where you can communicate, you can meet with other thought leaders, and this thing here is not just a 2-day certification and you're good to go and you're that's it and that's your role. It is a continuous lifelong learning experience. There's always things we'll be adding to this, and so it gives that thing where what we're looking for is we're looking for people in the future. This is what companies are looking for, that people who are really what we call these uh, not just lifelong learners, but the where the people are actually smarter than their managers, where they're smarter than their boss, where they're able
Oh,
to
yeah.
provide the solutions. Old
Yeah.
saying I used to have from one of my favorite bosses was this: is that, um, hey, when you come to my office, bring 3 solutions. Don't just bring problems. And we're
Mm-hmm.
looking for people to be thought leaders. We're looking for people to be involved in thinking, intelligent humans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love
And
it.
yeah, and when you think of that, that there's so much anxiety going on because people are, right now operating in silos, and I found it to be a great community. We actually just had an agile conference this past weekend, and it was so enlightening to me. And I'm also in like one or two meetup groups that I just joined a few months ago. And one of our speakers, he's based in the UK. His name is Andy Bleach. He said, "Don't worry if you're not an agilist right now. The idea is to learn what it's about, get your feet wet, talk to other people, and there's a lot of people there to support you and to bring things. It's really unlike anything I've ever experienced, because when you join a lot of organizations, you feel like the newcomer and you don't really feel too welcome, so you're just quiet. But they encourage for you to have input. So that's what I love about it. And one day I'll grow up to be like Jeff, but it'll take some time because he's been at it for a while now. and and so we really appreciate this opportunity to be here. And like I said, if there's anyone that wants more, we have we gave a little peep of Eric. He's going to be scheduling a time with Dennett that we'll be doing a presentation in about a week or so. So if you really want to know about the nitty gritty of what's the course, what's the expectations, and how to proceed, he's so good. He's the safe expert. That's his area, but he'll be teaching the courses that we'll be able to offer, and we'll supply Dennett with those links.
All right. Wow. Thank you all for joining. I can't get back to for some reason, I'm tech challenged, right? So I can't even get back to my YouTube live stream to see if I have any more questions in there. So if I do, I will send them to you.
Okay, that's fine. You do a good job. Don't put yourself down. You do a good job, Dennett.
Just,
So did
but no,
I.
I love this. I've been trying to get someone here. She does the Scrum Master certification trainings, and I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I kept hearing about it. And I've been trying to connect with her since May. Like we just all over the place. She runs a small business. She's been doing training. She wants to come in and do like an overview for us, but it's a lot going on with COVID. So I'm glad that you all came in here because one of the things that we want to do, that we are doing, is trying to just change this narrative about traditional education. Not that you don't need it, like, but you don't have to have it to have success. And also, it is not your own. It is not the key to success. Like I was told, you go, you get your degree, you get another one, and you do well at work, and you will have a perfect life. And that is not that's not the new normal. That's not the world. And it hasn't been for a long time, but we still have been living according to that narrative. So I love that you're coming in here and we're talking about this growth mindset, and you're giving us a tangible skill that we can use, right? Because we always hear about growth mindset, and it's like, okay, 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 I need to be more positive. Okay, okay, I need to believe it could happen. Okay, okay, okay. But now you're actually giving us a tool that our members could use if they learn, that would enhance a growth mindset. So I love it. I love it. I love it. And I'm looking forward, Eric, to you coming in. And I see there were two more something in the chat, but where they were, just thank you. Oh, thank you guys for joining. And so yes, this is on YouTube now. It's up in our group in Facebook, and I look forward. I'm going to send out the information for the class, and thank you. Thank you
Thank you. Thanks
all.
for having us, and we'll be back soon with with Eric in a few weeks.
All right, perfect. All right then.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dennett. Have a
All
good
Bye bye.
one.
right. Bye-bye.